Hollywood is full of places where stars were made, but today I came to the place where some of their stories ended. This is Hollywood Forever Cemetery. I came here to walk through Hollywood history, but not the glamorous version, the quiet one. And the more you walk through this place, the more you realize it isn't just a cemetery, it's a map of Hollywood history, told in a very different way. A lot of the names here go back to classic Hollywood, the people who helped build the industry. One of the first names that caught my attention was Burt Reynolds. For a while, he was the movie star. The mustache, the smile, the confidence. He had that kind of charisma you can't really teach.
Sorry, I don't want to get married.
In the movie Deliverance, he proved he could act. But it was with Smokey and the Bandit that he became a Hollywood icon. He was known as a sex symbol, yes, but also funny, self-aware, and impossible not to watch. Burt Reynolds died in 2018 at the age of 82. He left behind decades of movies and the image of a Hollywood rebel who never lost his sense of humor. Another name that comes up everywhere in the old Hollywood is Mickey Rooney. He was only about 5 feet tall, but at one point, he was one of the biggest stars in the world. In the 1930s and 40s, he became Americans' favorite kid. And alongside Judy Garland, he was part of one of the most iconic duos of that era. His career lasted almost 90 years, which is actually insane if you think about it. 90 years! That's a lifetime! But his personal life was complicated. 8 marriages, financial struggles, the kind of reality people don't always see behind fame. Mickey Rooney died in 2014 at 93. And then there's Hattie McDaniel. Her story is one of the most powerful here. You see, in 1940, she became the first black person to win an Oscar.
This is one of the happiest moments of my life.
But even that night, she was forced to sit at a segregated table. She won Hollywood's biggest award in a room that still didn't fully welcome her. And she worked in hundreds of films even when the industry limited her roles. And when people criticized her, she did reply something very interesting. She said, "I'd rather play a maid than be one." Yeah, I guess she's got a point. She died in 1952 at 57. And even after dead, she was not allowed to be buried here because this place happened to be, only for white people. So today, there's a monument in her honor. Next, we have Mel Blanc. And you might not know his face, but you definitely know his voice.
Hey, thanks very much, Doc. I'm glad you like him, too.
He was Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Tweety, hundreds of characters. They call him the man of 1,000 voices. And honestly, it fits. During his lifetime, he had a very serious car accident. And he fell into a coma. And the doctors didn't know what to do because he was in a coma for so many days. So one of the doctors said, let's try reaching him by calling him Bugs Bunny. And he actually responded in that voice. He was like, I'm right here, doc. And I know it's shocking, but it happened. He shared that story himself in an interview. Mel Blanc died in Los Angeles in 1989 at 81. And even his gravestone has one final joke. That's all, folks. Now, not everyone here fits the same Hollywood image, because you do have the actors, the voices and everything, but you also have some musicians here. And here's where I found Johnny Ramone. If punk rock had a heartbeat, his guitar was part of it. He wasn't about long solos or complicated technique. His style was fast, raw, and straight to the point. With the Ramones, he helped define an entire genre. And believe it or not, behind the chaos, he was the disciplined one, keeping the band together for over 2 decades. Johnny Ramone died in Los Angeles in 2004 at 55. And not so far away, you find Dee Ramone. And if Johnny was the disciplined one, Dee was the chaos. He was one of the main songwriters and the voice behind that iconic 1, 2, 3, 4. But his life was messy. Addiction, instability, and a constant struggle of stage. Didi Ramone died in Hollywood in 2002 at 50 from an overdose. And on his grave, there's one last line. Okay, I gotta go now. Another name that stood out was Paul Reubens. Most people know him as Pee Wee Herman. The gray suit, the red bow tie, the laugh. It was completely unforgettable. But Pee Wee wasn't just a character. He became an entire world. From Pee Wee's Big Adventure to Pee Wee's Playhouse, he created something strange, colorful, and genuinely original. Later, after a public scandal, he stepped away, but eventually came back, proving he was more than just one role. Paul Reubens died in 2023 at 70 years old after privately battling cancer. Next, I found Lisa Loring. She was the original Wednesday Addams, the OG. She was only 6 years old when she played that role, and somehow defined the character forever. And she had her own viral dance. She was dark, strange, but also sweet. Lisa Loring died in 2023 at 64. But she'll always be the Wednesday who started it all. Then there's Carl Switzer, better known as Alfalfa. He was one of the most recognizable kids from the Little Rascals. He had the hair, the singing, the crush on Darla. He was a huge child star, but like many of them, growing up changed everything. The roles disappeared, and he really struggled to move past the character people remembered. Later, he worked as a hunting guide, far from Hollywood. Carl Switzer died super young in 1959. He was just 31, and it was very tragic. He was shot during an argument over a small debt. So after going through old Hollywood stories, you start getting into more recent ones, and they hit differently. So here we have Anton Yelchin. This one feels especially sad because he was still so young. A lot of people know him from Star Trek, but he was more than that. He had this quiet intensity, something real. Anton Yelchin died in 2016. He was only 27. And the way he died, his own car rolled backward and pinned him against the wall. It's one of those stories that still feels impossible. He had already done so much and still had so much more ahead of him. But then you keep walking and you find stories like Anne Heche. She was one of the most magnetic actresses of the 90s. It felt like Hollywood was opening up for her. Thing is, in 1997, she was very brave that she publicly dated Ellen DeGeneres. She was open about it. And at that time, sadly, that was treated like a scandal. Anne later said that it affected her career. Yeah, it did. It definitely affected her career. Even though in the LGBT community, that was, visibility that mattered. Anne Heche died in 2022 at 53 after a car crash in Los Angeles. Her life was complicated, but at least she never hid who she was. There's something very peaceful about this place. It's really, really nice to walk around all these beautiful gardens and fountains. Today happens to be a very beautiful day in LA, and it's very sunny and it's really, really nice. So I kept walking and I found Halyna Hutchins. This one feels different because she wasn't in front of the camera. She was behind the camera. She was a cinematographer, a rising talent actually. And Halyna Hutchins died in 2021 at 42 after a gun discharge on the set of the movie she was working on. And the gun was supposed to be safe for filming, but it contained a live round. Her death shocked Hollywood because it was not supposed to happen. After her passing, it changed how the industry thinks about safety these days. Then I found Cory. And this one's different because this one's actually part of my world. And by my world, I mean the YouTube world, because he was a YouTuber. And he did come to LA to build a life through content. And, just like any other YouTuber, he started connecting with people. Now, the sad part was that Cory died in 2020 on his 25th birthday. Like, on his birthday. He got super drunk, jumped in a car with a friend, and they lost control of the vehicle. The crazy part is, like, all his YouTube videos are still up there on his channel. Now, I was very excited to find all these people that I found here. But the one I was excited the most was a very, very huge icon that I really, truly admire. Judy Garland. She wasn't just a star. She was Dorothy, and she was over the rainbow. But behind the magic, her life was brutal. She grew up under so much pressure, struggled with addiction and carried the weight of fame from a very young age. Judy Garland sadly died in 1969. She was 47 years old. But her story didn't end here. She became an LGBTQ icon. And, being a friend of Dorothy became a quiet way for queer people to recognize each other. And, well, me, I am a friend of Dorothy. Some people say you never really die until you're forgotten. Maybe that's why this place feels so powerful. Because for a few minutes, these names aren't just names on stone. They are stories again.